You don't seem ready.
I'm ready. Janet, how are you? Good to see you. Good.
Nice seeing you. Get some discussion, huh?
Yes.
What is everybody?
It's Thanksgiving, I guess. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
We're live? Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The mayor will be joining us here shortly. He's on a Zoom meeting and will be here as soon as he can. This is a special meeting of the Village of Ruidoso. As we call to order, let's all stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and to the state of New Mexico. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Mayor Pro Temp,
Yes, sir.
Councilor Eby is joined us by Zoom.
Oh, okay, great. So can we have a roll call vote, Madam Clerk?
Good morning, everyone. Mayor Pro Tem Salas,
Here?
Councilor Letterman,
Here.
Councilor Jackson,
Here.
Councilor Coughlin,
Here. And Councilor Eby.
Councilor Eby.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Our first item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on adoption of Resolution 2022-54, adopting a revised procurement policy and procedure manual, providing for the repeal of prior resolutions and written procurement policies and procedures, and an effective date. Ms. Judy.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Salas, councilors. We are updating our procurement policy in only one area. It was highlighted in your packet as yellow for multi-year contracts. As you know, when we do RFPs or IFBs sometimes, we'll have a contract that is for 1 year with 4 renewals.
Yes.
And each year, we have to bring that contract back to council. So in an effort to streamline the agendas for future council meetings, we are going to actually allow those contracts to auto-renew automatically. The definition is that the department head has to make a determination letter and send it to the village clerk before the contract end date as to whether or not the contract will continue.
Okay.
The wording is straight off the procurement statutes of New Mexico, so I just copied those. So now you won't see a lot of annual contracts coming in for renewal. If they have already renewals tied into them, they'll automatically renew unless the department director says that he would like to terminate the contract. And in our contracts, we usually have a 30-day termination clause. In all our contracts, that gives us 30 days if we would like to terminate.
So it would be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, my question is, because I know when John Cornelius was here, it was always about renewal of contracts. We were always missing the renewal dates.
Yeah.
So what happens if a department director misses that timeline for issuing the letter saying we want to continue on with this contract? Does it then negate the contract and it then has to come back to council?
So at this point, we're hoping that we won't have those instances.
But
the clerks are gonna add that too, but if it does happen at that point, without the determination, the contract would terminate.
Would terminate, okay. So would the wording then be in the original, are we going to start putting wording in the original contract to that effect? Because you mentioned that there's a 30-day termination.
So the 30-day termination is already in there, but the way the contracts will read that it would be automatically renewed upon agreement of both parties, is how our contract currently reads.
Okay, so if a department director, and it's, we always hope for the best, but we have to plan for the worst. So if a
Right.
department director it wishes to renew that contract, but just fails to get the letter, do you see what the conflict there in that?
So
wording?
if he doesn't get the letter saying that it's gonna renew, then it would terminate.
Then it would terminate. Okay, and then we'd have to go out and go out for bid and all that kind of stuff again. Okay, so we're putting a lot more pressure on the department directors to meet the timelines, as long as they understand that.
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Judy, didn't we, because we've had this discussion before, didn't we have one person looking at all those contracts so that this would not happen?
Yes, right now, it's starting in the clerk's department. We
Yeah.
did have a meeting about a week or two ago where we added more fields into her contract spreadsheet so that she would know if a contract is set to automatically renew and the dates and how many times it's gonna renew. So hopefully,
Okay.
that is gonna be placed on a shared drive that all the department directors can access. So hopefully, the only people that will be allowed to change anything on that spreadsheet would be the clerk herself and Chris in the capital projects. Otherwise, it's gonna be view only, and hopefully the department directors will get in the habit of each month being proactive of all their contracts to be
Yeah.
looking at that spreadsheet 60, 90, 120 days in advance. Plus, we do review that spreadsheet and that list every department directors meeting, which is the Thursday after every council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And just a reminder is when these go out for RFP or request for, proposals, that they are for 4 years. So every 4 years, we still have to go out to bid for the services, right?
Yes, and one of the other things in this multi-term contract is if the contract is under the 60,000, we can have it automatically renew, but it's a max of 4 years. And then if it's over 60,000, it can renew up to 7 times, so an 8-year contract, which is procurement statute anyways. That just gives us another way to help the directors streamline their business.
One more question is in here, it talks about department director, but not all departments have a director, correct? Some have managers.
I should have put slash manager.
So just
Maybe
put slash
in
manager.
the resolution, you can say department director slash manager.
Okay.
Yes, this is Eby.
Yes, go ahead.
I just had one question on the, there was in the line where it said that the directors shall notify the clerk if, for the renewal. I just wondered if there was any kind of a timeline, like a cutoff date, like say 3 days before, business days before the contract expired or 5 or whatever, because it doesn't specify any timeline as far as other than that it should be renewed.
At this point, I do not have a concrete date in the term of days or weeks before the contract renews. But if you'd like, we could put that in there if you would like.
Okay, just a question. If everybody think that's pertinent, I just thought that you should give the clerk some time because they could get it in at the very last moment. The way it reads.
And I guess that was my question initially, because 30 days before the contract ends, the contractor has to have a letter saying we're terminating. So is that 30 more days for the director to be sure to let the clerk know that we're requesting to end this vendor?
So what we could do, because we have usually a 30-day termination clause, we can make the determination letter due 30 days prior to the next renewal date.
Okay.
That way, if he is gonna be terminating the contract, he'll still be in line within the timeline of the contract to terminate at that point too.
So within
And we'll
that,
kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
so within that 30 days, that still can involve, because that's what I didn't know. And not all those terminations have to be brought to council or council approval. It's just the director. Okay.
So we can put a 30 days prior to the last renewal date, maybe, or something, that the letter has to be presented to the clerk.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Agree with that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so any other questions for Judy on this? And none? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, move to adopt Resolution 2022-54, adopting revised procurement policies and procedures manual providing for the repeal of prior resolutions and written procurement policies and procedures and an effective date as discussed with the changes that were suggested.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Very good. And I'm going to take the liberty to move some of the items around because I believe the mayor will need to be here for item number 2, or I would
Yep.
request his presence here for that. So,
Absolutely.
not to delay you anymore, Denise and Janet, but I really want him here. So I'm going to jump to number 3. Discussion and possible action on design of Phase 2 of the Ruidoso Department of Public Safety located within the Horton Complex.
Two
Mayor
of our
Pro
favorite
Tem,
guys.
Council, Manager Dodge. What you have on the agenda packet is the revised plans that we're wanting to get approved for the Department of Public Safety. This is at the east end of the Horton Complex. The plans were submitted to White Sands Construction, which in turn we received about a week ago on November 8th. And got them onto this special meeting. So what we're wanting is to have these plans approved by you all so that we can move forward with the project. Do you all have any questions on any of the design?
Yes, I do. On the back of the building, we're moving the evidence storage and the Sally port. Is there enough room then from the back part of that building to the fence line? Because that's where we've got a detention pond already.
Yes.
dug
So
back.
they have looked at that, Counselor, and they have determined that there is enough room in the back. They would just have to facilitate a drainage to go into the pond on that side, but they have looked at it.
Okay, so it's not that deep or that wide of a building then?
Yeah, there, I believe there was an area of just a little over 28 feet left from the outside of the back side of that wall.
Okay, and the backside of that was supposed to be parking.
Yes.
So that's gonna take up quite a bit of parking. Is
Yes.
that gonna be,
No, so you'll still have adequate parking from which would go west from the end of that building, in between that and the existing court.
okay. And would that just be for court personnel?
And
parking back there?
dispatch, yes.
And dispatch? Dispatch personnel as well?
Yes.
How many dispatchers do you anticipate in the future having on duty at one time?
I would hope like 7, but probably 3. No more.
Well, no, in 7, so based on 7, and you're looking at 3 to 4 court,
Court personnel, there will be adequate space there in the back.
that's adequate? Okay.
Yes, for that number. I
Okay.
think we figured there would be 12 spaces in the back with the space we have left.
Do we have to put a handicap back there?
I believe so, yeah, there will be probably one handicap.
Okay. Even though it's fenced-in parking?
Yeah, we'd have to allow employees, with handicaps to
Okay.
be able to park back there and get in the building.
I just want to make sure we're thinking for the future, not based on, well, we hope 3 people show up today, you know?
No, we are looking at that, so
Okay.
that way we have adequate space back there for all of our employees.
Okay.
My question is in the armory. I believe that's a window on the north side, I guess.
If it is, it will be taken out. and
That's
it
what
will
I
be-
thought.
Yep.
We didn't, okay,
Yeah, it shows the window in it, but it will be taken out.
okay. I think that's the only thing.
Looks like they moved your security door.
So, Zeke, about how much longer do you think that we can start
So,
consolidate dispatch in.
Mayor Pro Tem and councilors, once this layout is approved by the council, the architect has requested 6 to 8 weeks to finalize the design.
Okay,
And so that kind of coincides with us bidding the project once the design's done, around the February timeframe.
Right.
And then start construction early spring, hopefully is the plan.
okay,
By then, we're pretty well complete with dispatch at this time and just finishing up some things in the court, so we'll be done with all of that. And just, kind of waiting on phase 2 design to be finished.
okay.
And then once design is completed, once the architect gets it, then we'll deal with the entire scope of phase 2? Because this is just the build out. This isn't the whole scope of what's gonna take place.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. We have to add back in the paving of the front. We had to take the paving out and the fencing in the back and a couple things, so that will be worked into the phase 2 scope. Along with, the only thing not shown on this plan is the current meeting room. That will be included in this phase as well. We're working on a different configuration. It's probably still gonna be a meeting/training room. Maybe just a little different configuration, but that will be included in the phase 2 as well. It's just not shown on this drawing just yet.
And then are we talking in phase 2, doing the stucco work on the outside of the building like we've been talking, some concrete work? Parking on the other side, over on the Reese Drive side, is that gonna be in phase 2?
I believe so, yeah. I think we still need to have those conversations of exactly what's gonna happen on that western half. But it would definitely happen in phase 2.
So right now, what are we anticipating? Because we had talked about tearing down that shop building and putting another building there, but now we're moving that over here. Is that going to be open space in the current plans?
There's been a couple of discussions on it. There hasn't been a permanent resolution of what we're gonna do with that building yet.
Are we still talking about a storage yard, impound yard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And that would be part of phase 2.
yes.
In the phase 2, you talked about the fencing in the back, Zeke. Do you know the priority as far as, I know it hasn't been bid out yet, but will that be towards the beginning of phase 2 or towards the end of phase 2? And I have a reason for asking.
Well, honestly, that would probably be towards the end of phase 2 after the parking lot's done.
Okay.
If it needs to be reprioritized, we can definitely address that during the bidding of phase 2 to where that work happens prior.
Only because when the state fire marshal came through, and we were talking about egress from the gym, he did not like the way that the egress is right now, going down into that tower. So I don't know if it's gonna be a problem with him moving forward.
The current phase that we're finishing right now did include 8-foot security fence around the tower, which will happen now,
Right.
prior to phase 2.
But my understanding is that going out, because right now that gate is locked. So the egress goes into a locked space. But we were talking about putting like a pathway to separate the people from the parking lot and the drop off for the court. So they'd have like a corridor to go through, and then there'd be an emergency gate at the end with a panic bar that they would open up to get out. Is that still in consideration?
So the path leaving the gym down the ramp
Right.
now, it's open now, and it'll remain open when we're done. We are,
It's open, but it goes into that locked area. You have a gate down at the other end,
correct,
and that he did not like.
okay,
They have to be able to get out and away from that building.
okay. Well, they still have the capability of getting out into that entire yard area, but I see what you're saying, as far as getting out on the east end, the gate that's locked.
Right.
We'd have to figure out how to get,
Yeah, because then they'd be trapped in there, and if the building was on fire, including the rest of that, the dispatch and the police part of it, then those people are trapped in that area.
Is it still, can you go from the gym, that area, down to the football field? Because you used to be able
Well,
to
then
do
you run
that.
into the same thing. You run into, the football field's locked off. It's all gated and locked. So for right now, in dealing with state fire marshal, that is not an emergency exit. We actually
Okay.
covered up the sign, for that.
Okay. Did the fire marshal not talk to all of you, Zeke?
No, not on this instance, no, that was just a Boys and Girls Club inspection.
Oh, okay.
But because it also incorporates, you know, the gym is shared space with the Village of
Sure.
Ruidoso and some other things, he was there and he's going, okay, I'm not gonna look over here right now, but when you guys do the fire alarm system, I will be looking over there and that better not be there and this needs to be taken care of, and there were some other
Mayor
issues.
Pro Tem, you know,
Yes, sir.
on those issues that you're bringing up, that's I think an issue that we have that is a current facility issue that we need to address outside the scope of the Department of Public Safety. So, you know, when we look at that, you're talking about the exit out of the gym, right?
Correct.
So that, we should be addressing that, you know, separately. So if we need to address that, I would say that we should scope that and do it differently than this project we're working on.
Well, he wasn't opposed to the way it is currently, because I told him it was gonna be part of phase two that the village is working on, and he was okay with it at that point. But the sooner we can get it done.
Yeah, if you're talking about providing security for the gym and, you know, a clear way to exit that, I think we need to address that immediately. And, you know, we can scope that differently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. Any other questions for the chief and Zeke? I'll entertain a motion to approve this design of Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, move to approve design of Phase 2 of the Ruidoso Department of Public Safety located within the Horton Complex as presented and with recommendations and additions.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Letterman,
Aye.
and Counselor Salas.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the public hearing. Item number 4. Ordinance 2022-09, an ordinance amending the Village of Ruidoso Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 54, Land Use, for case RZ 2022-431, Land Use Zone Designation Change Request from a Planned Use Development Designation to M1 Low Density Mobile Home District Designation, a tract of land in the southeast 4 of Section 10 and in the east 2E2 of Section 15, 0.412722 acres. Ruidoso, Lincoln County, New Mexico, Village of Ruidoso applicant, and amendments of the zoning map of the Village of Ruidoso to reflect said zoning change. Ms. Sena.
So, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. This is a quasi-judicial public hearing. It was heard by our planning commission on November the 1st, and they made the recommendation to council that they thought that this rezone would be in the best interest of the community by providing an opportunity to add a residential structure to it. It is a large piece of property, so we will be positioning the trailer as north as possible to stay out of any area where water ponds towards the stop sign. But just sticking with the rezone, it was recommended to you all to make the change from a planned unit development to become M1, which is low density.
So,
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes.
so that, I was a little befuddled over that because there's trailers everywhere. So that piece of property that the village owned was what?
A planned unit development. It was zoned the same as the area with the fire station as
In
well as
North
the
Park?
T-ball and the golf course across the street.
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
it was just lumped in with that, because you're
Okay.
right, it's not very fitting if we were to
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
I think that was all, when they did all the airport and they wanted that section, they just all combined
Okay.
it, my understanding back
Okay.
then, so. But
That's
it
what it looks like to me.
on there. There was something I was gonna mention. Commissioner Ball was recorded as absent. This is in the draft minutes. I just pulled it up. But yet he's voting on all the action items.
I
just
think he
wanted to
came
put
in
that.
later.
Oh,
So he
okay.
wasn't there, and then he stepped into the meeting.
Okay, we should make notation of that, that he arrived at 2:10 or 2:30 or something like that.
Yeah, it does look kind of strange.
So, because, yeah, I said, wait a minute, he's absent, but he's voting, so.
Well, and I'll, in the second whereas, the very end of it, it says, requesting a zone designation change from PUD hyphen M1 low density. We should remove the hyphen and change it and put the word two
Yeah.
in there.
Okay.
Are we ready for a?
We're ready for a motion.
No, it's a, it's.
Oh, it's a
public
public
Oh, that's
hearing, that's
right.
right. I'll open it up to the public for any comment in the audience. Anyone in Zoom land or YouTube land responding?
We did not receive any written correspondence.
And that's
for
where I was
either hearing.
gonna ask the clerk as well. No written or email correspondence?
No, sir, there was not.
Okay. In that case, I will close the public hearing. Is there any further questions from this council on it? None? From staff? All good?
I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Yes, sir.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 2022-09, an ordinance amending the Village of Ruidoso Municipal Code of Ordinances, Chapter 54, Land Use for case number RZ 2022-431, Land Use Zone Designation Change Request from Planned Use Development Designation to M1 Low Density Mobile Home District Designation, a tract of land in the SE4 of Section 10 and in the E2 of Section 15, 0.412722 acres, Ruidoso, Lincoln County, New Mexico, Village of Ruidoso applicant, and amendments to the zoning map of the Village of Ruidoso to reflect said zone changes with the minor wording change in the second whereas as described earlier.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Counselor Coughlin,
Aye.
Counselor Jackson,
Aye.
Counselor Eby,
Aye.
Counselor Salas,
Aye.
and Counselor Letterman.
Aye.
It has been approved.
Thanks, Sam.
I would say it's easier to hear Counselor Eby on
Zoom, huh?
easier in the meetings.
It's there. I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. I'm gonna go check with the mayor where he's at on that part, and if not, we'll pick back up.
Mayor, Pro Temp, if you would, we need to correct the rent sheet too.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna correct it.
So make that about 10 minutes,
10 minutes? Okay.
10-minute break.
Cool.
Thank you.
There were so many inconsistencies on this new rate sheet.
Oh, I just looked at the one that was,
That was something they don't match up. in
Yeah.
Offerings and pricing and seems like you get a cut deal if you live in certain lots. Are you getting warm? I'm warm. Are you? Oh, that's a nice jacket.
go down and I came out here, where I know I saw that hallway that the gentleman went to address the fire marshal's issue. The fire marshal, I see you. Whenever you want. We're there today. I'll be there all day. I'll go by this afternoon. Yeah, I have to leave at 3:45, go get a vaccine. But other than that, I'm there. Did you have my cell phone number? I don't, sir. Okay, let me give it to you.
My Dallas Cowboys.
575-973-5469. I'll give you a call. Because the door's probably locked, so when you get there, yeah. But yeah, no, we don't have any kids this week. We didn't get enough to sign up to be open, so we're there doing other stuff. School's closed this week, this Thanksgiving break, yeah. And then Christmas, they're closed for 2 weeks and 2 days. They come back on a Wednesday, which is a half day anyways. It doesn't make any sense, I don't know.
We're gonna go probably about 30 minutes, unless he gets out there sooner. Because he was expected to be done by now.
Let's see here.
Did you hear me, Chip?
30
Maybe possible 30 minutes delay. He thought he would be done right there.
All on Zoom besides me.
Turn the mics off.
Those live mics, those live mics. So he couldn't throw it in a seat or something. He grabbed it, talk on and let it go, and it just hang right there in the middle. And it was kind of annoying swinging it. He's like, I'm never caught on up with Mike. Never.
See, sometimes with mine, if I turn on my handheld, the mic is right here on the side, so if I hit it, you can hear everything out of here.
What sucks is when you have an open mic, you can't just call you over the mic. Or over the radio and say, hey. Yep. Doesn't. Yep. You gotta call yourself up. Did you get all that ice cleaned up yesterday?